The core challenge of word2vec is converting sparse, one-hot vectors, arrays of zeros and a single one that lack any inherent mathematical relationship, into dense, continuous vectors that capture semantic meaning. The baseline approach to this problem is the Continuous Bag of Words model, or CBO. It evaluates the surrounding context words in a sentence to predict a single central target word. To process this input, CBO takes the vectors of all surrounding context words and performs a mathematical averaging. It compresses the entire neighborhood into a single, homogenized predictive signal. This averaging has a significant mathematical consequence. If a text contains an infrequent word like delightful next to common words, the average skews heavily toward the high-frequency data. The network tends to predict a statistically common word like beautiful, and the rare word receives negligible weight updates during backpropagation. The skipgram model inverts this architecture. Given a target word, the network predicts the surrounding context. It parses a single window into distinct pairwise observations, forcing dedicated weight updates for rare vocabulary. Because words act as sole predictors, their specific contexts are perfectly preserved. Skipgram ensures that every single word acts as an isolated primary predictor, establishing a robust architecture for high-fidelity vocabulary embeddings. The primary trade-off is computational cost, as generating these multiple samples requires significantly more memory and training time than CBO. We can trace the programmatic data flow of a forward pass using a controlled toy environment. The sentence, "I like orange juice and eat eggs daily." We will isolate juice as the target word, with a context window of 2. The initial network input is a sparse one-hot vector, x, representing the target word juice. It contains a single one at the index for juice and zeros at every other position in the vocabulary. This vector x is multiplied against the initial weight matrix, w. Because x is a one-hot vector, this matrix multiplication acts as a pure row lookup. The operation extracts the specific row from W that corresponds to juice, which becomes our hidden layer vector H. The target word projects directly to the hidden layer, creating vector H, the word's initial embedding. Vector H then multiplies by matrix W prime, yielding a raw score for every vocabulary word. Finally, the softmax function normalizes these scores into a probability distribution. At this initial stage, the weight matrices W and W prime contain random values. This forward pass produces a mathematically uniform distribution, where the target word predicts every other word with a roughly equal, meaningless probability. While the network outputs predictions for the entire vocabulary, skipgram is not designed to produce a single, high-confidence guess for a neighboring word. The training objective is the structural concentration of the probability distribution. The network must minimize loss by aligning its output probabilities with the actual context pairs found in the training text. Through backpropagation, the network uses the error between its prediction and the true context words to update its weights. Over hundreds of epochs, this calculus incrementally penalizes unrelated vocabulary, while rewarding the words that actually appear in the target's neighborhood. This chart shows the learning effect for juice. Before training, random weights assign only 50% probability to true context words. After training, the network concentrates over 95% of probability mass exclusively onto the true context words. In this system, meaning is defined as a concentrated probability distribution. The output prediction layer is a disposable training mechanism used to force this distribution into the hidden weights of the embedding matrix. Scaling this pairwise objective transforms our understanding of a corpus. When we apply the same mechanics to 28,000 tokenized sentences from Shakespeare's plays, we see chaotic co-occurrence data snapping into a structured semantic landscape. After scaling across millions of passes, the output layer is discarded. The hidden matrix, W, remains as the primary artifact, where each row is a dense, continuous embedding representing a word in the Shakespearean vocabulary. This dense vector space encodes linguistic relationships through angular distance. We measure this using cosine similarity, where a value of 1 indicates perfectly aligned vectors. This heat map reveals strong geometric correlations in the Shakespeare corpus. Deep red scores link conceptual clusters, such as trusted and knaves, as well as motion and blind. These clusters prove the network learns abstract semantic fields entirely from the raw data. Words achieve high cosine similarity because they share the same geometric trajectories induced by their identical contextual co-occurrence rates. To visualize this 100-dimensional matrix, we use t-SNE dimensionality reduction. This compresses the complex topography into a 2D plot, preserving local data neighborhoods. This is the final topographical mapping of the learned Shakespeare embeddings. The geometry successfully isolates functional syntax. Character names like Romeo and Brutus appear in a distinct cluster, located far from tightly packed regions representing abstract concepts like love, honor, and death. This process transforms a sparse one-hot vector into a precise angular coordinate. The word juice, or Romeo, is now a vector located within a rich relational topography of human language. Skipgram demonstrates that semantics can be derived purely from distribution. In this architecture, word meaning is encoded as the mathematical geometry of the surrounding neighborhood.